Hi friends, today we're going to see the past year NEET questions for the chapter Ecosystem, and today in this video we will cover the last part of this chapter, which is part 6. Now let's begin with the first question, which was asked in the year 2013. Natural reservoir of phosphorus is dash. So animal bones, it's not always you get animal bones, so it's not the answer. Fossils, okay, to some extent. Seawater to some extent, but seawater animal bones are in scarce amount. It's predominantly from the rocks. The natural reservoir of phosphate or phosphorus is rock which contains phosphorus in the form of phosphates when rocks are weathered. Okay, minute amount of these phosphate dissolved in the soil solution and are absorbed by the roots of the plants. Herbivores and other animals obtain this element from the plants. So when they intake the plants, they consume it. So it's predominantly the rocks. Okay, therefore the correct answer to this question is option B. Next question here. Which one of the following is not a gaseous biogeochemical cycle in the ecosystem? So you're given 4 cycles here. Okay, now sulfur, nitrogen, carbon and phosphorus. Phosphorus mostly used in the form of phosphate. Okay, its reservoir pool is the rocks, which we already saw in the earlier question, while the cycling pool is the soil for terrestrial ecosystem, and for water it is the aquatic ecosystem. Now if you take the rest of the cycle, sulfur, nitrogen and carbon, they are, is actually not the gaseous biochemical cycle in the ecosystem. So here the question tells us which is not a gaseous biogeochemical cycle. So phosphorus is actually not the gaseous biogeochemical cycle. But let's analyze what you mean by this geochemical. What do you mean by geochemical cycle? How can you say that? See, in Earth science, the geochemical science or the geochemical cycle is a pathway that chemical elements take in the surface and the crust of the Earth. The term geochemical tells us that geological and chemical factors are all included. Now when you talk about the 4 geochemical cycles of the Earth, it refers to the chemical interactions in the surface reservoirs. What are the 4 layers you have? Lithosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere and biosphere. While if you take a geochemical cycle, it refers to the chemical interactions that exist in the crustal and the subcrustal reservoirs, such as the deep earth and the lithosphere predominantly. Therefore the correct answer to this question is option B. Next question here. Barophilic prokaryotes are dash. So this question was asked in the year 2005. Now what do you mean by barophilic? How can you describe barophilic prokaryotes? Or you can simply say barophilic bacteria. See, barophiles are organisms whose survival and reproduction is optimized to high pressure, such as those which are present in deep sea environments. Remarkably, the most pressure resistant organisms currently known so far, I'm going to give you the name of the organism here. It is, can you see it? Pyrococcus yanosoi. It is called as Pyrococcus yanosoi. This is one which can survive the highest pressure of about 150 MPa. So see how much it is resistant to the pressure. Barophiles are bacteria which live in high pressure environments. They are generally found in the ocean floors where the pressure generally exceeds below 380 atmosphere, and some have been found at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean where the maximum pressure is roughly 117 atmosphere. So they are the ones which grow and multiply in very deep marine sediments. Therefore the correct answer is option A. Next question here. If by radiation all nitrogenase enzymes are inactivated, then there will be no dash. Very easy question for you to answer. We already discussed about the nitrogenase cycle or the nitrogen cycle. Imagine if nitrogenase is an enzyme that is involved in the biological nitrogen fixation. We all know that. If the enzyme nitrate reductase is involved in the conversion of nitrate to nitrite, if it is absent, conversion of the ammonia to nitrate is carried by nitrosomonas and nitrosobacter. So the fixation of nitrogen in legumes will not be present. Major thing, leguminous plants will actually work because of the nitrogen fixation. Imagine the nitrogen fixation is absent. All these leguminous plants will not be there, right? Therefore, the right answer to this question is option A. Next question here. The main role of bacteria in the carbon cycle dash. Okay, now let's talk about the carbon cycle before we go into the solution. Okay, now when we talk about a carbon cycle, it can be defined as a series of processes by which carbon compounds are interconverted in the environment, involving the incorporation of carbon dioxide into living tissue by photosynthesis and its return to the atmosphere through respiration. So it will involve everything: decay of dead organisms, burning of the fossil fuels, and everything. So this is something that I would like to add about carbon cycle. Carbon cycle is the process where carbon travels from the atmosphere into the organisms and earth and then back into the atmosphere. So it's a cycle. Again, it moves into the atmosphere. Plants take carbon dioxide from the air and use it to make food. Animals then eat the food and the carbon is stored in their bodies or released as carbon dioxide through respiration. So the main role of bacteria in the carbon cycle involves digestion and breakdown of the organic compounds. Okay, option C is the right answer. Next question here. Which of the following pairs is a sedimentary type of biogeochemical cycle? Now I'm going to show something to your right side. Maybe you can see that and understand. Now I told you there is a difference between gaseous and sedimentary. Gaseous is involved more with atmosphere, while sedimentary is more attained to the Earth's crust. Gaseous is a biogenetic materials that are involved in the circulation are nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon, and sometimes you also have other gases. Now when you talk about the sedimentary cycle, biogenetic materials involved in the circulation of the non-gaseous part will include elements like phosphorus, calcium, sulfur, etc. So when we talk about the sedimentary type of biogeochemical cycle, it is phosphorus and sulfur. Oxygen, nitrogen, all that will come in the form of gaseous form. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option B. Next question here. In an ecosystem, which one shows one-way passage? Okay. So what shows the one-way passage? Carbon, it's not like that because it is taken from the atmosphere, given to the organism, again it's released into the atmosphere, so it's not one way. The right answer is free energy. Energy flow, as we already discussed when we saw about the pyramid of energy. When we saw the pyramid of energy, we discussed that the flow of energy is one way. Right, even for numbers the pyramid can be inverted, but for an energy you cannot invert it. That's what we saw, right? The same thing follows here. In an ecosystem, if you see, the one which shows one way is free energy. So the producers, herbivorous, carnivorous, where the nutrients used is carbon and nitrogen, and the potassium which shows in the cyclic form. Therefore one way is option A, free energy. Okay, so this set of questions was very easy and it's a small portion of ecosystem. With this we complete the full chapter of ecosystem NEET questions. Hope to meet you in the next new chapter. Thank you.